up, man? 50 grand. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Kind of stupid of me. I left my headphones on for the whole night, so you'll see this weird cable just attached to my
Yeah,
headphones.
very like Fisher Price meets Space 1999. I like
Yeah.
it though. Very cool.
Man. Honestly, with the wireless headphone, I do find myself not very good at keeping up or turning it off and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Um, I've been in meetings with my company before where halfway through a serious conversation, and then I'm like, what? 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 And be like, 1 second, let me just, plug it in. And then half the time I'm in a meeting like this because my cable's very short. I'm like, so, yeah, what's up?
Then you pull the jack out. Like, ah!
Um, so for this episode, I I got Tops to review this awesome would you say video or I guess documentary, right? Uh,
Docudrama.
Docudrama. Is that what people call it now? Okay.
No, I think it's like a documentary, but with a bit of editorializing, so more of a docudrama. It's not like a straight
Right.
news
Because
documentary,
I
if you
heard
will.
there's a term called docu-series, but that's mainly for series, I think.
No, I think that it would classify as a docu-series for sure.
Was there multiple episodes?
Yes, 3 episodes.
Oh, for some reason I felt it was just one long episode.
Well, that's actually a good point because I know things like that, depending on the geographical region, they might break it up differently depending on how the audience tends to consume stuff. We
Right.
in the USA tend to have shorter attention spans. And so for us, it was three 45-ish minutes, an hour, minutes. Yeah, about an hour each episode for 3 episodes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was split for us as well. It's just I didn't really pay attention. Because when you watch something, it just continues and continues.
Okay,
And
that's right. You watched it in one go. Is
yeah, I
that it?
watched one.
Oh God,
I
I
was
would have lost my
brave.
mind. I had to break it up, man. I had to break it up.
But yeah, so the series was called Man with 1,000 Kids, which is an interesting title at first, and then as you watched it, um, yeah, very very interesting storyline.
Yeah, just some background for our 9 subscribers. So this is a docu series that Dangus recommended on Netflix, and it chronicles across, at least in the U.S., 3 episodes, a gentleman from the Netherlands who, not an exaggeration, ends up siring across a multitude of women from anywhere from the Netherlands to
Australia,
Australia, etc., close to 600 children.
yeah. I mean, I mean, you know how we had the episode about the Great Migration. I mean, he definitely did the Great Migration.
Yeah, yes, he did. And so at first glance, you think it's just going to be, at least I did, focused on this gentleman and how he had all these kids and kind of centered on him. But really, the story arc is from the perspective of the women that were the mothers for these children, anywhere from lesbian couples, single women, to I think one married couple
Yep.
where the gentleman had married already, previous marriage, had kids that were grown, but remarried. And his new wife wanted children, and he had tried to have his vasectomy reversed, but that didn't work out. So that's why they sought a donor.
Yep. So just a quick, I guess, summary view of what the whole documentary was about, um, without exposing too much. Because I mean, people who watch this might want to go and watch it, and you don't want to spoil the fun.
Oh, in the
Um,
USA, we just say spoiler alert and then we ruin it for everybody.
okay,
No,
well,
but that's a
spoiler
good
alert.
point. No, that's fair, Dangus. I think that's a good point. We won't give too much of it because it is very interesting, the story arc. So go ahead, Dangus.
So yeah, like Top said, guy in Netherlands, donor, serial donor, and then story unfolds to a more automotive. which is not because he wants to be the great savior of all these people who wanted kids, but there was I guess, a little back competition of some sort in a
Oh yeah,
close
yeah.
knit group of his. I guess I would say,
Compatriots, his
would you
compatriots.
would you say associates?
His compatriots. His
Compatriots.
compatriots. That's what we say in Nigeria. His compatriots. So to Danga's point, it starts out innocently enough because on the surface, he's a pretty genial guy. I think he's like in his mid 30s or something like that. I can't remember.
Good
But in
looking,
any
blonde
case,
hairs, blue
yeah, I mean,
eyes.
he looks literally like, for those of you who might be old enough, like Fabio, but the Netherlands version. I mean, he fits the profile of the type of guy most women in that region of the world would want to have children
The
with.
godly chains.
And they, I mean, much respect to the women, they admitted it. Like, look, when they heard his voice or his picture, they were like, I want to make babies with this guy. And so at first it started out as, to Danga's point, he was being benevolent, wanted to help these couples and single women. And I think on a certain level, would you say he believed that in the beginning and it changed? Or what's your thoughts on
No,
that?
so the reason there wasn't really no reason given by the person himself. But I think what the story uncovered was, in a way, due to his upbringing in a family of multiple kids. He lacked, I guess, a certain level of attention from his parents. And so
Yes, yes.
therefore, by doing this, and again, this is not from him, this is from people who did research on him and all that stuff. Um, from doing this, it sort of gave him a sense of, I guess, acknowledgement, a sense of completeness, a sense of achievement, in a way, and I guess that attention that he was seeking, right?
Okay,
Because
okay.
what happened was his intention was to have, these kids from his donations grow up and keep in contact with him.
Yeah, which is rare in the official way this is supposed to work. I'm not sure exactly how it works in Australia, but in the United States, and similar to what they mentioned in the film,
Mm,
usually you have to wait till 18
that's
to
right.
even have the opportunity for the donor to meet the child. And there's a whole multitude of reasons for that, from just not stigmatizing the development of the child, the relationship with the birth mother, all those things. And so it's almost understood that, look, you're a donor and that's pretty much it until the kid's 18. This gentleman, to Dangus's point, almost went the other way in that he was actually more than willing and desiring to be a part of the children's life from the get-go.
Yep.
And I think for some of the women, correct me if I'm wrong, Dangus, they were open to that,
Yep.
even though in cases of where he was a donor from the clinic, well, one of many clinics, that typically they would have said, you know what, under Netherlands law, you can't have any contact with you're basically offspring until 18. He kind of worked out with some of these mothers and couples that if they were okay with it, he would love to be a part of their lives.
Yeah, and I think we also need to maybe give a little bit of context as to how some of the donations were given.
Ooh,
Um,
are we allowed to do that on YouTube?
I think it's fine because it is a documentary series that is
Oh, fair
available.
enough.
So just
So, in the interest of science, Dangus, continue.
a little bit of a spoiler alert as well, but the methods that these women went to get the donation. So majority of them went through, websites for, the donation facilities and all that stuff to get what they needed to get pregnant. But because, I guess, due to costing, because from what I remember in the documentary, each donation to be purchased was, I think, the process was like $2,000 or something like that, or
On the low end, for
on the low
sure.
end,
Yes,
and then it's
definitely, it's definitely not
and then there's
uh,
like $10,000 upwards for the
correct.
higher
Like
end.
it's
Yeah.
quite pricey.
And then I guess for the people who couldn't afford it, they went onto social media. They went onto, similar to what do you call that, Craigslist of donation websites, um, and they've sought out this particular person, and uh, they have an agreement of well, do you want it natural, or do you want me to give it in a little test tube, in
Right.
which they met up in certain areas like parks, shopping mall, whatever is convenient, and then this person just does whatever he needs to do to get whatever they need, and sometimes toilet cubicles and sometimes the car, um,
Yeah,
and and yeah, and so that's how the donations for some of these women came about, and that's how they managed to also get contacts with them and keep that contact, right?
right. And it's a double-edged sword because there's a reason that the process of getting a donor and insemination, that whole process, there's law behind that and regulatory law
Mm,
is to protect really both sides of the transaction, if you will. And, amongst that is kind of exploitation, which unfortunately is what happened because, on one hand, the industry itself is a very lucrative one. I think
mm,
I heard it was upwards of $5 billion industry. So
mm,
that's a lot of money, and it's cost prohibitive for these couples and families. And so it's an incentive, like in anything, to find a cheaper avenue to obtain what you need. And so it's unfortunately leaves the avenue of exploitation. Just as if you go to get anything outside legal established channels,
yeah,
it leaves you open for exploitation. So, to Dangus's point, it wasn't that this individual, this gentleman, was pushing, oh, let's try to get some natural. It was the couples and the women in a lot of cases says, look, you know, I don't really want to go through the standard process. Would you be open to doing it the old fashioned way?
yeah,
And, he was never like creepy about it. Never. I mean, it was, again, he was the type of guy that they desire, not only physically, but in terms of his disposition. Right? I mean,
yeah.
you'd see his videos very
Traveling the
confronted.
world, all that stuff.
Exactly. So talk about the other guy. Like it was a later in the episodes, you found out that he was part of a
Oh, hang on.
consortium.
I think you got jump a bit
Am I
ahead
jumping?
here. Yeah, yeah.
Am I
Let's
jumping?
just let it simmer a little bit.
Okay, okay,
I guess like the things that I want to sort of maybe we should talk about, right?
sure.
Is I mean, there's a lot to talk about. Honestly, there's so much to talk about on this thing, but I think the thing that I wanted to talk about is because they said the title is 1,000 kids, but it wasn't just 1,000, right? Um, I think they did some rough estimation at the end where they've realized that it ended up being upwards of 3,000 kids.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it was what can you confirm was the question, right?
Exactly.
And so the stuff that they could confirm, okay, either from women who said yes, he was my donor, and what they could find in clinics that was on the up and up, meaning properly disclosed, they came to
Mm,
600. But when they considered that there were outside of clinics that he donated to, he actually donated to clinics, but was less than forthright about the limit of his donation. So he exceeded what even was stated that he donated. So to Dangus's point, 1,000 may be optimistic in terms of, or rather conservative in terms of how many offspring he actually had.
I think the crazy thing was that these women created a social media group to see how many people sort of was involved using this guy's donation. Um, and I think that's how the number sort of roughly came about, right? Because
Yeah, I
they
think
spent, yeah.
initially they were trying to get an estimate. And so the funny thing I was thinking about Dangas is that this is this is not unlike where a woman may be dating a very high value man,
Mm,
attractive, looks the part, has the economic background, whatever. And there's a sense that, okay, I'm the only one, right? And so I think when they started to find out that, oh, in the same town, he's your donor too. And so, the women got together and, they got on Facebook and they started talking to each other. And to Danga's point, it kind of grew on from there. They started to do the rough calculation of how many potential
mm.
children.
It's pretty funny because about that group. So as I was talking to a friend of ours about this the video and the group that they created, it was funny because our friend said, "Oh, that's pretty interesting because in the dating world, right, there is actually a group called Have You Date This Guy." I did not
Yes,
know.
I've heard of that.
I
I've
did
heard of
not
that.
know that group existed.
I've heard it.
How
Guess
crazy!
how I found out about it
How?
during my trip to the Philippines.
Oh, really? Top goes in. Am I in here?
No, because
Uh,
as you know, there are a lot of expats from Australia, United States, Europe that go to the Philippines. And
mm,
so, you know, in my experience anyway, and other experts have confirmed this, these Filipinas are concerned that you may have certain expats, such as our gentleman in the
mm-hmm.
documentary, that may have not one, not two, but three. So they compare notes and say, hey, this guy seemingly too good to be true.
Yeah,
He's 40 something, he's doing well, he's gorgeous, and he has no other women. So did you date this guy? Have you
yeah.
dated this guy?
I wonder if I should be check and see if I'm on there. Maybe that's another story. But so yeah, that was just fascinating because I didn't know about that group existed. But back to the story of this guy. Um, so I guess the interesting topic I would like to dive into is the consequences of his
Ah,
these actions and the impact to the kids, right?
yeah.
Because I remember there was a part in the documentary where these women tried to, pull him out and get him to speak and get him to admit to things and whatnot. And he blackmailed them to the extent where he was like, if you keep asking me questions, if you keep doing this, I'm gonna just block you, and your kid will never get to meet their actual biological father.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty commendable of the women, is that, and I think it speaks to the culture in that region of the world, because in the United States, those women would have found him, burned his house and his car down with him in it. But they were quite reasonable, like giving him the opportunity to, come clean, to be forthright. They, they were visibly hurt that he had so many donors, but they were willing to work with him to say, hey, okay, you're at about 300 kids now. The limit is, I think,
Mm,
60 or something max. It's time for you to stop, because of what Dangus mentioned, impact on the children. I think one of the great terms that came up is called co-sanguinity, and that is a terminology used in the industry to describe what can happen in these situations where you have so many half and partial
mm,
siblings. And basically, you're concerned that in a close proximity, you could have half siblings who could see that familiarity because they're related genetically in each other and mistake it for attraction,
mm,
right? And then you run the risk of basically unintentional incest. And that's a serious, important thing to be aware of. Even in Nigerian society, that's part of where it's more important to know who you're interacting with in a particularly dense environment, dense culture. And that's one of the plus sides of polygamy because it introduces transparency when it's done right,
Mm.
meaning you have your sister wives, and it's before you even get to the marriage, the whole process of the marriage involves meeting the family before anything goes forward. So someone can say, hey, you're actually third cousins. We can't, we're going to nix this.
Mm. And yeah, like it was interesting because I guess they brought up the idea. Or actually, before we dive a little bit into that, we should give the landscape or the what do you demographic of how substantial the impact of his kids are, right? Because just by us saying, he's donated all this stuff here and there, you don't really get a visualization of how dense the number of kids in a particular area is from his donation. So I don't know if there's actually an online map. Um, Let me see if I can actually pull it up. Kids. Let's see. Man with 1,000 kids map.
There's actually a map.
There is actually a map.
So while Dangus is pulling that up, essentially, the reason a lot of these clinics have these rules and this legal regulation about how close in proximity donors can be for multiple donations is that if you have a town of, say, 500,000 people, okay, you want to have a very small limit, relatively speaking, to what this gentleman did of donation. So let's say 20. Okay. And once you've had your 20, that's it.
Yep.
You have to be, I think there's some rules of how far, but it has to be significant distance from that initial point of donation so that there's virtually no chance your offspring will meet. So, for
Mm.
example, let's take New York City. If you donate 20 in New York City, guess what? The next time you donate, it's literally got to be in California or something.
Mm.
So, reasonably far enough that the odds of your half offspring meeting is virtually improbable, if not impossible, due to the geographic distance. But this gentleman flaunted those rules. And so, what was happening is the reason these women and couples found it easy enough to stumble upon this is they would go to the playground or they would go to the local market and they would run into parents, and your kid kind of looks a little bit like my kid in a kind of non-accidental way. Mannerisms, phenotypical type, nose shape, ear shape, hair texture. And turned to find out I'm talking within a 10, 15-minute drive sort of thing. And so a lot of these parents, as time went forward, would basically end up saying, oh, yeah, you have a half sibling in my friend's school across town. And so we're not talking even 5 half siblings over, let's say, a 30-mile radius, thinking
Yep.
more like 100 half siblings within a 50-mile radius sort of thing.
So I have this. So what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of screen share. Might make it if I can do it right. All right. So sharing screen. So this is the image of the person, which was the serial donor, and as you can see, voluptuous hair, nice curly wavy, beautiful eyes, that kind of stuff. But this was the demographic of just the Netherlands. Oh, did my computer just freeze? Oh wait, sorry. I'm clicking on the I'm clicking on the actual me. Okay. So here it is. As you can see, the demographic of this is terrible. So just in the Netherlands alone, you can see that's how many offsprings came from this particular person.
Right. And for
Um,
those of you, who haven't been to the Netherlands, I mean, it's a small country. It's a densely packed country.
mm,
Uh, you can drive from north to south in a reasonable amount of time versus other countries. And so, that's part of the problem, right, Dangus? Because if he had stopped at, let's say, 100, it would have been bad enough,
yeah.
right? It would have been bad enough. But because despite being told, hey, like you have half siblings like the next town over, they're meeting each other. They're, and the sad part, the serious note is that as the children got older, right, they will begin to ask their parents very reasonable questions. I kind of like so and so. We get along
Mm,
great. Why can't we
get
be
together or
more than
whatever.
friends?
Yeah.
And so it was very tough for these parents to explain why, particularly with these children in their formative years.
And that is the a great point because I think in the series they talked about there's this thing and I don't know if it's true or not, right? But they say that with these kids having that gene and that link, there is a I guess a attraction of some sort where they feel that they are familiar with this other person, which they're
Exactly.
not related to or whatever it is from what they know, but they feel they're
Exactly.
attracted to. Now, I don't know how true that is because I haven't actually read up or looked into the psychological side of these things. Um,
Well, I
but
can tell
maybe
you
yeah,
anecdotally, it's true because even in my extended family, right? Like I told you, between my grandfathers, I think they like were originally 46 like children, right?
okay,
And so, and I have family in Europe, West Africa, North and South America, and we had a reunion on the East Coast of the United States a couple of decades back, and I'll never forget one of my cousins on one side that I knew of her and I hadn't seen her in a very long time.
mm,
But I cousin on the other side who didn't even know she existed, right? And just saw her. I'm like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. I want to get her number, introduce me. I said, nah, man, nah. but why can't I talk to her? I'm like, because she's your cousin. And he goes, I've never met her. I'm like, that's not the point. And so, but he like to your point, Dangus, without even talking to her, the second he saw her,
mm,
there was that sense of connection, familiarity, what have you,
okay.
without knowing where she was from, how she was related. He just saw an attractive woman at a party.
That's interesting. Do you think that's because of the natural or magical chemistry that was from that connection, or was it because she's actually naturally attractive and therefore kind of you know, hit the nail on the head and he just fell for it? Like,
I think probably a blend of both.
mm,
Something very interesting I was listening to a while back in biology. I had to take a biology course as part of where I was working at a biotech company years ago. But anyway, one of the things they talked about is that biologically, we're actually aided in avoiding consanguinity, basically
okay,
sleeping with your cousin or your sibling, because human beings are designed in such a way that you're too closely related, like your pheromones and biology will actually repel you, right?
okay,
Um, Obviously, it's not a hard and fast rule, but that's the way it's slanted. So, and this is not doesn't even have to be with siblings, just somebody that you're so close genetically to.
right.
It's actually off-putting almost. I was reading that women tend to be more attuned to this. When you may hear, "Oh, hugging him felt like hugging my brother," like things
Right.
like that.
I see.
So anyway, that's just a riff on that.
So we have a little bit of time left from. By the way, we are trying to keep it within a limit because Pops and I can go on for hours and probably be boring to death listening to us talk about the same thing for 2 or 3 hours. Um, but with the time we have left, so I guess the question is, there's the alarm clock.
Ring the alarm.
the question is, I guess, like, do you think, well, firstly, do you think that what he did, right? Do you think that is there's a malevolent um, sort of side to it, right? Do you think there's an alter motive to it? And of course, at the end of the movie, there was a little bit of alter motive to it. But at the start of it, do you think he sort of did all this for some particular thing? Or do
Yeah.
you think like it was just like, he thought that it was a good thing that he was doing? Because like when I viewed it, right, at the start, I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know what everyone's complaining about. Like this guy is just trying to help out the world.
Yeah, he's
It's
sowing the seeds.
yeah, he's
Sowing the
there's people out
seeds.
there that needs it, and he's a good looking guy, and so therefore he thinks it's great for him to just spread his genes.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because a couple of episodes ago I talked about in the United States how we can be guilty of like binary thinking. It
Mm,
has to be this or it has to be that. And one thing that, to your point, Dangus, is that I think that he came from in the beginning, like he truly wanted to help.
mm,
He came from a big family and appreciated the benefits of it, and he wanted to kind of share that. On the flip side, to your point as well, being in a large family, particularly God help you if you're in the middle
mm.
somewhere where your
Which he
parents forget
was,
your name.
which he
Yeah,
was.
your parents don't even remember your name. And so he wanted to have an opportunity to be the center, to be the
Mm,
one everybody looks for, reaches for, adores, and gets that attention. And so I think that's when it became dangerous because let's face it, right? The way men are designed, that's why we have like a billion sperm even into our 80s, right? The desire to reproduce with as many potential mates as possible. That's in our
mm,
design. But let's be clear, after about 20 to 60 children, you're good. Like you should be good. But he wasn't. And so, to your point, we begin to see a little bit of underpillings of ulterior motives.
yeah.
And one of the parts that I think you might be getting at is when he went essentially international with his cohorts,
Yep.
who were a lot more, I think, sinister than he was,
Mm,
particularly when they went to parts of East Africa. And there was a quote about bleaching Africa, which kind of raised a flag for me. Like, okay, there are some people, not this guy, I don't think this guy, but there are some people who do those sort of things that have a maybe a God complex, like they're going to replicate
Oh no,
the image of
the
themselves.
the Africa thing was interesting though. So that was a calling for people to come and donate because they wanted to, have a wide, I guess, a different kind of gene,
Sure,
and
sure.
they actually provided benefits. So just
Yes.
for the viewers, right? Like there was would you say promotion or some kind of
Yeah, so certain regions in East Africa, right? Part of how they're trying to um,
attract?
exactly attract diverse population, and like we said before, it's a lucrative business. So they would actually incentivize individuals from like Europe because I'm going to keep it 100.
Mm,
In Africa, colorism exists, just like among the Black community in the United States, it exists. So there's a desire to be lighter. So that's the thing. I'll keep it 100, even in parts of Southeast Asia and East
mm.
Asia, right? And so part of that was inviting such gentlemen over to Kenya, to Danga's point.
Yeah, and they gave, I think, free accommodation. It's almost
Oh,
like you're
yeah.
getting a mad vacation for just
Oh, yeah.
basically just, doing what you do on a daily basis in a way.
Yeah. So,
um, so that I think there was a part of that where, there is that ulterior motive of just getting that lucrative side of things. But then at the end, so this is where the spoiler comes in, right? This is the stuff I was wanted to hold at the end, was that we found out that he was part of a group um, of these also serial donors, and there was a little bit of a competition as to how many kids can we reproduce. Um, they also made it a game of some sort as well, where they basically got their sperms together and mixed it in a tube and then
mhm.
provided to the woman and then waiting to see which kids is it, right? Is it his or is
Right,
it the other person, right? And that made it even more confusing for the people who were, I guess you would say, victim to this whole
Right.
shenanigan, right?
And an important part we should mention. So the women eventually got together with a woman in the United States who I think, I'm not sure if she's an attorney or an advocate, but in any case, she helped them
Yep.
put together a class action suit, which involved the media, I believe the New York Times,
New York Times, yep.
Interpol, to basically stop this gentleman that, in good faith, the women and couples had tried to do it genuinely to stop him. And
Yep.
I'm glad they did that because by the time we get to Kenya, I mean these guys are too far gone, if you will.
But he
What
didn't stop though.
Well, that's what I'm saying until the class action suit, right? I mean, and he had to literally go to court, right? But something I wanted you to talk about: what did you hope or expect to see in the series that you didn't?
To be honest, I didn't even expect anything at the start of this series. Like, I didn't know what it was all about. Like, I actually thought this guy was so godly that he went all around the world and
No.
basically.
I mean, once the story ended, like once the film was done,
Oh, right.
did you see anything that you thought, oh, you know what, I wish they had talked about this, or oh, what about this? Like, were there any unanswered questions or things you wish they had talked more about in this series?
I think they covered it pretty well in terms of how things were done, why, what kind of thing. But it was all speculations from just from their side of the story, right? There was really no full interview of some sort with this guy. So I really understand what is
Okay, the
the
what and the
motive.
why.
Because
Okay.
like I think that's important, right? Because if you're gonna try and stop from someone like him doing this, and there will be others out there, right? Especially when a Netflix movie like this comes out, a series comes out like this, there will be people who will think that this is such a great idea. They're gonna
Yeah.
copy, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, it raises awareness from these series, but as you may know, media does things to people, and this could also cause a chain reaction of others who think this is a game and to do the same thing.
Very interesting because I know he was invited, but he declined.
Mm.
But you raised something that I didn't think of, right? And because he obviously they had the part where he came to trial and he
Yeah,
got penalized. To your point, though, they're going to be guys that think, oh, well, that won't be me. I'll just,
that's right.
right there, I never thought about that. That's a great point. It's a scary point, but a great point.
Yeah, and this is not the first time this happened, right? Like if you think about all
Oh,
the
no.
serial
Oh, no.
killers out there in the world, and when documentary comes out, it gives people ideas. It
Sure.
sort of
Sure.
seeds them subconsciously. Like they think it's just, oh, I'm just watching this really interesting Netflix series, right, of documentary of stuff. But then slowly, as they process and as it seeds into their mind, people often go off on the wrong foot and think, well, this is a great idea. If this person can do it, why can't I?
And that was the thing that I wished the series addressed. First of all, while I didn't agree with how they went about certain things in
Mm,
terms of production value, I thought it was excellent.
mm,
It was well executed. I wish they would have had the women and the couples talk about, I went to this thing believing certain things. I
mm.
maybe made some mistakes. And here's what I wish I'd done differently and how to help you if you're a woman looking for a donor to not end up where
Yeah,
we were. I don't think they did nearly as much justice on that
no,
than I think they should have, given the impact. I think there was that one woman who baked him cookies, who I think was the only one was like, yeah, I kind of by having him come over and do it the old-fashioned way, took a risk, and I took that chance. And I tried to get him to stop, but she kind of took some accountability of her role in it and
yeah.
kind of tried to communicate that ideally you may not want to go the path I did, and you may want to do due diligence. So I wish there was more of that to help other individuals who may unbeknownst of
Mm.
this kind of thing happening.
And the other thing that I actually wanted to see a little bit of is it's great, all this thing that they did and all that stuff, trying to stop him, all that stuff. But there was nothing to talk about. Well, what now? What happens to all these kids? What
Oh
do they
yes.
do? How do they now tag or identify or do something to avoid these kids from falling in love with each other?
Yeah, I think that's a whole nother series. I wouldn't be surprised if, feedback like this forces them, well, not forces them, but encourages them
Yeah,
to follow up on those children across time. Like that old series from the UK, like 7 Up, 14 Up, where they follow these group of students
right,
in the UK over like 50 years,
right.
and see how their lives change. So maybe something like that. I don't know.
And then I guess it's also interesting or as a concern as well because considering how many people produced from this one person and the I guess the availability of easy travel now across the world, it opens up even more of a problem because if someone from Australia was produced with his donation goes to Netherlands, you know it's I mean in Netherlands I guess like the gene pool, you would be more seeing more stronger I guess traits of the blonde hair and the
Yeah,
eyes and
it's
all that
more
stuff.
homogeneous in that
Right.
region of the
But
planet.
then if you get someone from, let's say, Australia or even from Africa or from
Mhm.
wherever who would have a mixture of these genes,
Sure.
they wouldn't look the same. Like they'll look in a
Right.
way, there's some things that they can see that's resemblance, but there will be a huge difference, right? And
Right.
then it's like, how do these people then know?
Well, the thing is, that's actually even better, right? If there's more disparate gene mixing, the
Mm,
problem, to your point on the map, is, and what you just said about the homogeneity of the gene pool, right? Like that part of the planet is pretty homogeneous anyway, right?
mm,
Lots of blondes, lots of the same look, Norway, Sweden. And so the density, that's the danger, right?
yeah,
That's the real danger. If these gentlemen had, for example, done 60 in the Netherlands, 60 in Australia, 60 in Vietnam,
yeah,
60 in Nigeria, 60 in Brazil, that would almost be harmless in terms
mm,
of consanguinity, because you wouldn't have as much of a close mixture of the
yeah,
genes, right? But to your point on the map, the fact that he had like some 500 babies or something within pretty much Netherlands slash Germany and the surrounding countries. Um, but anyway, great topic, Jangus. Closes out. Closes out. Any last words?
yeah. So I'd say definitely watch. I think like there was a little bit of hesitant from Tops when I said watch this, but I think at the end, I think we both agree that it's definitely a good watch to just understand and see how this whole industry kind of works, and also the loopholes or the flaws of it, right? Um, and at the same time, I think it raises awareness, it brings attention to, I guess, the lack of um, visibility of how these things run. So highly recommend watching it. Um, just be aware that there will be some cringe moments, um, especially the shopping mall part. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing to watch, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the discussion that we had. Again, it's spontaneous. We didn't really have talk about this before, like what we should talk about, whatever. But I think it's definitely more topic that we could have talked about, but due to the time limitation, that's all it is. Um, and yeah, anything you want to say, Tops? No?
Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe.
I love
Make
how you're
sure your
saying this
cousin
stuff
and
now.
your neighbor isn't a half sibling.
Oh, you know what they should do now? Like they now with technology, they could actually do like a an app, couldn't they? Like
Oh,
like
I'm
like
sure
a
they're
like
out
a
there.
like app tag or some form where like as you get close to someone who's with the same kind of
I think,
background,
was there a movie like that or something? I could
is
swear
there?
there's like a sci-fi movie. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but
But how sick would that be? It's like you get close to that person, and it's like, oh, hang on, oh, same blue dots, let's go.
well, I remember one time, like years ago, In my bachelor days, there was this woman that I met um, in the same neighborhood. I think she was like an intern or something, but like she was gorgeous, like gorgeous. I mean, she was, I think, Ghanaian or something. Gorgeous, beautiful skin, but I felt like zero, like, but nothing but platonic feelings for her. Like it was like my
Mm.
little sister. She was gorgeous. Like objectively speaking, she was gorgeous. And I thought like that never happened to me before. It pissed me off. Like,
And that
you
was your
know,
cousin?
who knows? But to my earlier point, I'm I am hypothesizing that maybe genetically we were close enough because
Mm,
Ghana is just a stone's throw from Nigeria.
sure.
That something genetically was like, that's not for you. I
Yeah.
mean, lovely person, intelligent. I mean, just the whole package. But I was like, felt like my sister. It was weird.
All right. Well, like Top said, subscribe, like, and follow us. Um,
Ooh, one more thing, Dangus.
yo.
We're also on Spotify now.
Oh,
Check it out there
true.
as well.
Yes, true. Update. We are on X. We are on Spotify. Um, and we have, you know,
To be clear, X as in the platform formerly known as Twitter and
Twitter.
not the rave drug ecstasy. Just making that clear.
By the way, I'm sorry, but like my mouth is going weird, man. Like I've got this.
Novocaine,
No, I
cat
know.
hair.
Like this tingling, numbing sensation just continuously happened whilst we were doing this thing, and I can't get it out. It's weird. It's like it's just numb.
Oh, did you have like something too cold or too hot?
Ah, I don't know. It just happened just like that, and just now it's like continuously tingling.
Oh, that's weird.
Maybe you might not see me next episode. Maybe.
God forbid! God forbid! I rejected in the name of Jesus. All
On the
right.
obituary, it's like the man had tingling feelings while doing podcasts. Rest his soul.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for watching. Until
Yep.
next time.
Till next time, and have a good one. Bye bye.
Peace.